Hello, I'm Ivan Portillo with the IBM Edge Application Manager team. Today we're going to take you through a demonstration of Edge Application Manager capabilities. Edge Application Manager provides a highly secure and robust application lifecycle management for thousands of edge machines regardless of their hardware and software differences. Our fully autonomous and lightweight agents transparently work through firewalls, allowing for continuous operation even when the local network is disrupted, and then making application deployment time and cost efficient. We will take a look at how our policy deployment feature autonomously controls workload installation and updates for devices with different capabilities in a retail environment. We're going to use Acme Grocery, a fictional nationwide grocery chain. Each store has different types of cameras located at various positions, and they want to use the cameras to monitor for security issues and for potential inventory outages. We have two cameras, camera A and camera B for our demo, and we're also going to be using the dashboard. The dashboard resides in the management hub, which can be placed anywhere is appropriate. For example, in a public cloud or a regional data center, or even inside a factory completely air-gapped from the internet. The dashboard enables you to see and interact with your edge assets in one place, regardless of the physical locations and current connection status. These edge machines might be geographically distributed or concentrated in one location. Notice that the dashboard has 4 tabs: Nodes, Services, Patterns, and Policies. Let's take a look at the Nodes view. The nodes represent your edge machines. It can be either edge devices, like an intelligent camera, or edge clusters, like a computer appliance, or even a rack of computer blades. Here you can interact with your edge node. It will show you your registered devices, the assigned software, the last reported status, and this is the graphical view. You can also see the nodes in a list view. The list view has additional details like the node owner and the last heartbeat to the hub. Let's take a look at our cameras for this demo. Let's find cameras for the Acme demonstration. Let's open up camera A. And if we look at camera A, we have these additional details that we call node properties and node constraints. Both make what is called the node policy. Node properties are a statement of fact about the node. Node constraints are requirements that the node owners, node administrators have set up to determine which software will run in this node. Let's take a look. The first set of node properties are provided by the Open Horizon agent. It tells us things like the number of CPUs or the amount of memory on the node. They are set by default. Then we have these additional properties. We notice that this is a camera model 2000. It doesn't have a GPU, and it's been set as the property type equals security cam. We can also tell that the nodes administrators have set up these constraints, that they're going to run software that either has a property or purpose equals security monitoring or a purpose equals check stock. Let's take a look at camera B. Again, camera B has a set of node properties and node constraints. The node properties for camera B are different. We notice that this is our model 3000, which has a GPU, enable property to true, and the type of camera has been set to a smart camera. We also set a constraint that we only run services whose purpose is equal to check stock. Let's add services to each camera. For that, we navigate to the Services tab and we do a search for Acme services. We notice there are 2 services. Let's start with the Move Detection service. Again, this is this policy for services. It has properties and constraints. The properties the developers of this software have set up are it will only run in those nodes whose purpose is security monitoring, and they set up a constraint that it will require at least 200 megabytes of memory. Notice that there are no deployment policies associated with this service. Let's add a policy. We're going to call the policy ACMED move demo, and it's going to detect movement. It has been assigned to the service move detection service, and it's going to set up a set of constraints. The constraints are going to be the type is going to be equals to security camera, plus it can also run on cameras whose property is also smart cam. And next, here are the rollback settings. In case this service doesn't deploy into the node, we can roll back to different versions. We will just take the defaults. Here we reviewed that everything looks good, and we're going to deploy this service. Now, what we're trying to do here is to associate these three sets of policies. The service properties and constraints will match the node properties and constraints, in addition to the deployment policy we just created. For instance, for the type equals security camera, is going to be matched by the constraint of the deployment policy equals to security camera. The service constraint of memory greater than 200 is going to be fulfilled by the node property, which in this case is 2 gigabytes. In addition, the constraint of the node that the purpose is security monitoring is going to be met by the property service in the service. So let's take a look at what happened in the node. So we go back to the nodes, we look for our camera A, and we see what services are running, and we can detect that services move detection has been deployed to this camera. Let's do the similar operation for camera B. So we go back to services, see what other services are available to us, and we notice there is a empty shells detection service. We look at the properties and constraints of this service, and we notice that developers have set up a purpose equals to check stock. And that also set up a constraint that the memory needed in the node and the camera needs to be at least 500 megabytes. And most importantly, they have to have a GPU, which is GPU enabled property equals to true. At this moment, there are no deployment policies. So let's add one. We call it ACMED empty demo. This is empty shells demonstration. We're going to set up a constraint that only cameras with a type property equals to a smart cam are going to be able to run this service. Again, no rollback settings and no settings for the help. We set it here, review the details, and deploy the service. Basically, what we're going to look here is, again, the combination of the node properties, the service policies, and the deployment policies. So here we see in red that the service constraint of memory greater than 500 has been met by the property Open Horizon memory is equals to 2 gigabytes, and that the GPU enable constraint in the service has been met with the GPU enable equals true in the node. We also see that the deployment constraint of a smart cam has been met with the type of smart cam in the node. So now we should be able to go and take a look at camera B and see what has been deployed to this camera. So if we look for admin cameras and click on camera B, we can see that the empty detection service has been successfully deployed to this node. Finally, let's do a demonstration when we update one of those cameras. So we're going to go back to camera A, and we have been told that the camera A has been upgraded to be a GPU enabled camera. So what we do here is we set the GPU property equals to true, and we set the type of camera to be a smart cam. So that will cause a renegotiation of the agreements between the lightweight agent running on the node, and the ACBOT running on the hub. And basically what we're doing here, we're going to match two sets of services to this camera node. On the first deployment policy, we're going to match the type SmartCam with the new value for type SmartCam. But we're also going to match the GPU enabled in the service to true with the property in the node set goes to true. So all the matches between the services and the camera A policies as shown here. So let's take a look at what happened in the node. So if we do a refresh, you will see that two services are now running on this camera A. To recap, we talked about node policies, how they express the properties and constraints of the devices or clusters. We talked about service policies, how they set by the service developer, and they express the properties and constraints of the software. And finally, we talk about the hub administrator set up the deployment policies to express the properties and constraints of the software you want to run in the device. At this point, we can drill in deeper. We can arrange for hands-on access to the product, discuss your use cases and how to apply them to solve your business problems. So where would you like to go next?